So I've been working on a video for a week or two now about an emulation box that's pretty cheap, and the idea was to make it an all-in-one box for a bunch of different legacy systems. And I decided to do a little more testing, and take a look.
Security is getting smart to our little break-in. I can't access... See the blue blocks?
Yeah, so this thing apparently can run Xbox 360 games as well, and I'm curious even now about PlayStation 3 titles, which I guess I'm going to test a little bit further, and hopefully by next weekend I can have the video out. But what you just saw there is footage from a $100 box, PC box, that's emulating Xbox 360 games, and then many other systems as well, GameCube, Xbox, PS2, so stay tuned for that. But I'm kind of looking at this system a bit more like, man, this is kind of like that all-in-one box, the PC box you can put under your TV. And now we've been getting more and more information around Xbox, Microsoft, and their next-generation plans. And, you know, I've been kicking around some of the thoughts around what they could be doing, and you know what? It looks like it's becoming more and more of a reality, but man, there are some serious hurdles they need to clear to make all this work. And I gotta say, it seems like it's a Herculean effort that they would need to make this happen. But let me show what I'm talking about here today. So if you guys enjoy the video, hit that like button, subscribe if you're new. Now, all of this went down when this image was just randomly posted on Xbox blog. I say randomly posted. Technically, they were just kind of talking about obviously opening a billion doors with Xbox, just getting more and more people to access their ecosystem. So as they showed a ROG Ally, an Xbox, a laptop, cell phone, a tablet. The thing that's weird though is this UI is not something we've seen before. This is like all new. So people of course are zooming in on it, and they see this tab here that says Steam, and then it kind of is just a snowball effect from there. The Verge contacts them. Microsoft then pulls this whole image off their website. Too late, of course, the internet never forgets. So here we are now with this image that people are trying to decipher as, okay, is this their next generation plan? See, I think if this was an image without the Xbox consoles next to this, it wouldn't be a big deal, because then you'd look at this and go, okay, maybe that's just a PC or just a UI that they're setting up to go across everything but the Xbox, because the Xbox has indeed been separate from PC and even their other parts of their ecosystem, as we've heard about mobile, for example. The Xbox has kind of been off on almost an island at this point. Games don't necessarily transfer over from Xbox to PC all the time. There's so many that are Xbox Play Anywhere titles. Third parties, certainly a mixed bag, and sometimes you'll have some random ones that are all, like, for some reason, are Xbox Play Anywhere. Like, I think Metaphor, for some random reason, oh yeah, the Xbox Play Anywhere. You buy it on Xbox, you also have it on PC, strangely. So we've had those occasionally happen, but this is where things get interesting for Microsoft, because you see Steam, and let's say that this is just for PC, as people are really theorizing now as the most likely outcome. That would be okay. You have this launcher that would work, we assume, on a ROG Ally and maybe that OEM device that Asus is creating with Microsoft. And it's just a way to organize your Steam library without having to leave the Xbox UI that they set up. You don't have to launch it separately. All right. So it'd be like almost like a game console-like interface on your ROG Xbox Ally device. Okay. But with the Xbox system, Microsoft their plans seem to be, most likely, everything being integrated together. But there are a lot of challenges for this. And in fact, Windows Central did a very good job pointing this out, which I'll leave this link down below. But they also have like the image and stuff if you want to check that out a bit more. But they say that Microsoft is working hard to integrate Xbox and Windows game development more closely into the future. Windows Central understands that traditional Win32 will be the preferred development environment for the next mainline Xbox consoles, with Xbox One Series X S era environment gradually phased out. Where that leaves our existing library of Xbox era games remains to be seen, but it seems emulation is one avenue Microsoft is exploring for backward compatibility and game preservation. So, indeed, this spells out that the next Xbox consoles would be mini PCs, and they would work, as they said, the traditional Win32 development environment. So, at that point, yeah, everything would be seen then as a PC, and that would include by Steam. That's where it's starting to get a bit murky for people. Why would it make sense for Microsoft to include Steam on their next console? Like, at that point, you have multiple stores competing for customer dollars. And it's a platform that we assume, create and put out there. I say assume because it's also possible that other manufacturers get involved here and load up this Windows console-like OS that's developed. So if you're Microsoft and you're thinking even about opening up to some of these other manufacturers, as Asus apparently is making an OEM Xbox handheld with them later on this year, but maybe consoles as well into the future, you start to think about that. Steam. Well, you can buy from Steam, obviously. That'd be fine. But that would pull away from the Xbox store that, at this point, has been the only way you can buy games on that Xbox console. At least for now. And that's kind of an interesting thought. Are we eventually going to get to a point where the quote-unquote walled garden is challenged in some way for consoles? And that's something I've considered and many others as well after we saw what happened with what's going on with Apple and Google with their walled garden ecosystem with their phones. Could that eventually spill over into game systems as we see Sony continue to take more and more of just the market share in general for these HD high-end boxes? Especially with Sony making a lot of moves to try to pull any options for buying these games, say, digitally through those cards in stores. That's gone. They've been sued multiple times with class action lawsuits over just that and limiting supply or ways to get games outside of just the PlayStation Store. So the more this happens, the more interest and the more attention that's going to be grabbing from regulators. So I think that's something we'll have to keep an eye on going forward. But Microsoft can pretty much say, hey, we already have Steam on here, so I mean, we're very open technically when it comes to this. But Windows Central is going a little further here. Will that allow those games to run on Windows devices like Canon and the ROG Ally, or any average gaming PC, though? It's hard to say because there are some legal hurdles contractually about exactly what Microsoft is allowed to do with third-party titles in its store. So they've asked for comment, of course. They haven't got anything back at the time of this recording. But the thing to consider here, right now Microsoft has two different ecosystems technically for gaming. There's the Xbox ecosystem and PC. They keep doing this thing where they tell you they cross over a lot and it's all one big happy family and stuff. It's not. The reason I say that is because it's very clear the Xbox side has to do things like pay to play online. I mean, it's very obvious that is a dividing factor there when you look at the numbers. And that's something they probably have to throw out the window. You'd have to get rid of the pay-to-play online factor. You keep the Game Pass, I mean, pay to be in Game Pass. That makes sense. That's like a content service. So, sure, okay. They would probably have to up the value of standard, which is really what that online requirement is attached to. But that pretty much has to go out the window. However, the other thing here is the idea that you'd have backwards compatibility for Xbox, but also for PC. That's where the contractual situation comes in. So if you have these games from Xbox that then also work on PC, but you purchased it on Xbox, then also what about the ones you purchased on PC that aren't supposed to work on Xbox? There's not cross-buy, but now they all do because they're in this Win32 development. That seems like an incredible mess to figure out. Emulation, that could technically work when it comes to just getting things up and running, but as we've seen with the original Xbox and Xbox 360 backwards compatibility, you still have issues when it comes to licensing around things like music, for example, with previous games, even though you're technically running it through an emulator, not doing a big remake or remaster and then re-release on the store. And then also what happens with Sony when it comes to Steam? Like, are these Sony games that I've bought, like God of War or Days Gone or Horizon, are they going to work on that Xbox, or will Sony somehow try to figure out a way to block it? Which I don't even think is necessarily possible, because I don't know why Valve would be like, oh yeah, we got it. We'll go ahead and block these PCs that suspiciously look kind of like Xboxes, you know, from our angle. We're not sure. I don't really know why Valve would want to do that necessarily. And I don't think Sony's going to retreat from Steam because they've kind of planted their flag at this point, unless they really do have a launcher. But we see how that goes for companies the size of Amazon, who are throwing all kinds of money trying to dethrone Steam, along with even Epic Games. Hasn't worked. Steam just kind of hangs out and just collects money, and everyone's happy to give it to them because of how good their platform is here on PC and how established it is. But I'll give them this. If they can pull it off, if they can have Steam available on the next Xbox, I think there will be a bit more interest. And not just from console gamers. Think about it this way. If you have a high-spec PC that you keep maybe in your office or a game room somewhere, and you have a massive Steam library, and you see this new Xbox system that comes out, and I could say $800, and for the PC crowd, you'd be like, oh, okay, that's actually not that bad. I know for console gamers, like, wow, that is an expensive console. Let's just say, though, it's a $600 system, because of course it'll go up another $100 for next generation. Maybe $700, maybe it'll be like a PS5 Pro level in terms of pricing. Still, if that's like an all-in-one system that gives a good enough PC-like experience when it comes to the TV in the living room, and games play relatively well, frame rate, resolution, that kind of thing, I could see how if you're a PC gamer, you might go, oh, I'll buy that for the living room. It has Steam on it. Why not? I'll pick it up. And then, I assume from Microsoft's angle, they're getting, yes, the monthly active user, but also they're going to dangle things like Game Pass in front of you constantly. You know, they might do different deals on the Microsoft store some weeks that are just way better than Steam. They're really, at this point, I think Microsoft, it sounds weird, because they've been in console market for a while. It's almost like they're going back around to the customer acquisition phase that you would normally start up with when you're first breaking onto the scene. They've fallen kind of far when it comes to the console side, and maybe they don't mind if they just stay where they are now going forward. But I think when it comes to just monthly active users, growing their ecosystem, they look outside the console market, but also tie it into PC so that it's all one thing. That would indeed be a pretty significant generational leap if they can do it, just based on all the stuff here that's currently in the way. But I'm really curious to see what they do here. It seems like 2027, so they have like a year and a half to get it figured out, maybe a bit more, but they probably want to start talking about this soon, because sales for the Xbox Series aren't exactly accelerating. They're kind of plummeting, and they have a ton of games coming up here in the next year or two, and right now, the question is starting to form about, okay, hold on. What happens to this Xbox library then if next gen pops up and we are indeed moving to things like a Win32 development environment? Can I still play those games? Will they move to PC? Or should I be waiting on a lot of this stuff for more clarity? But let me know what you guys think about all this down below in the comments. Would you be interested in Microsoft's next generation offering if it was more like a PC environment, but of course still kind of dressed up for the living room as a console with access to Steam and maybe even Sony's own first-party games as they move them over to PC? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.